Did the 49ers get a rest advantage with their schedule? How does the schedule look, and how are the 49ers going to navigate? What free agent targets should they be excited about after the draft? Rob Stats Guerrera and I will discuss that and more right after this. Welcome, everybody. Let's go Niners. My name is Jason Aponte. I'm Jason Aponte. That's Rob Stats Guerrera, the big boss at Gold Standard Podcast Network. And desperately do I need a new intro video that has Travis Benjamin, Trey Lance, and a few other people in it. Rob, how are you, man? Thank you for joining me tonight.
It's so funny that you mentioned that. I'm good, Jay. That's the first thing I said. I was like, I think that's Trey Lance. Like, what's going on with this video?
It's Travis Benjamin, too, catching the pass from him in a preseason game against the Chargers. It's hard to get intro videos. I can't make them. And you know, when you hire someone to do it, it's not a cheap job either, right, Rob?
No, it's not. As someone I can say from personal experience, I've gone through that. And I'm always worried about the NFL. They're always sniffing around. You know, they want to nab you for that Travis Benjamin clip you just showed.
First of all, before we get into the NFL real quick, and we get into all the topics and everything, I just want to know, how'd the Mariners do this weekend or this week?
Not great, Bob. Got swept.
No, you won the second game. Yeah, you should have been swept. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, but you know,
Aaron Judge hit a ball that literally no Mariners player moved after he hit it.
God, I'm so blessed to have Aaron Judge. Fine. All that aside, I want to go into a little bit of an NFL rant. I recently posted a video of a film breakdown that I did with Brock Purdy against Seattle, highlighting some of the passing concepts, highlighting why they work against certain things, and the NFL demonetized it. The $5 that I would have made off of that video was too much for the NFL. And I do want to say this, Rob. We do have to think about the NFL because God help them. They're so strapped for cash, and times are hard for everyone. So I want to make sure that I am sympathetic towards the NFL. So I was angry at first until I started thinking about it. But the NFL, you know, you need every single dollar. I completely understand.
Right. I was going to hold a bake sale this weekend just to, help them out a little bit because they are really struggling. Anything you can do, maybe a GoFundMe.
Yeah. It's just they want you to post the clips from the NFL Pro app to prove that you've paid for it. and just, little old me who was just trying to pass along some information and, get 49er fans excited about how the 49ers offense looked. The NFL just, they needed to make sure that they stopped my $4 from coming in on, because, every dollar matters.
Right. Otherwise, the walls would come tumbling down.
All right. Rest differential, a term that the 49ers fans are very, very in tune with. And I don't know if every other team is as obsessed with it as 49ers fans are. Last year, the 49ers had the third worst rest differential. And let's talk about the term itself. Meaning, whenever there's a game that's played, what is the rest for the other team in accordance with your own? And so the 49ers faced, what was it, Rob, 4 teams off of a bye last year?
4 teams off of a bye. That was the most in the NFL.
So they've gotten all this time off, and the 49ers had to just continue to just go ahead, and didn't matter where they were traveling either, because they traveled, the most miles as well, too. Well, the 49ers are top 5 in miles this season, and obviously that's expected when you're a West Coast team. I think that's something that you really can't avoid, especially when, you only have a certain amount of games that you can play. 3 that you have to travel to that are in your own division on the West Coast. Everybody else, you're going to have to move somewhere else, most likely. Mm-hmm. But the 49ers have a 9-day rest differential this season. And shout out to Guy Haberman, friend of the pod, friend of real life, for crunching the numbers. And I was able to cite him. But man, 9 days, Rob, doesn't it feel like the NFL gave us a little bit of a break this year?
Well, compared to what they've been doing in the past, absolutely. In 2024, the 49ers had a negative 21-day rest differential. And the year before that, in 2023, they had a negative 20-day rest differential. So that's 41 days of extra rest the 49ers opponents got over the last 2 years just to get, even if it was 0 this year, I would have been happy. But to actually have an advantage, it's fantastic. And you know what? Like, it's about time, quite honestly.
And when you look at the schedule at first glance and you see so many road games, that can be a red flag. But the road games are on the West Coast, meaning the 49ers have to go to Seattle. That's not a long ride. The 49ers have to go to LA. That's an hour ride from LA to San Francisco on a plane. So they're not exactly burning the candle on both sides when it comes to those first ones. And then even the Tampa Bay game has them coming off of a Thursday game in which they get more time. So when you look at it and you want to say, hey, they've never been on the road more during the Kyle Shanahan era in their first 9 games than they are going to be this season. That's true. But when you look at where they're going, it's not nearly as concerning as you would think when you navigate the miles, right, Rob?
Especially when they also get the benefit at the end of the year of never having to travel. The last 5 weeks of the season, they're only on the road one time, and that's in Indianapolis in a dome. So that is the best possible way that this schedule could have worked out with that many road games, 6 of their first 9.
Shout out to 49ers Throwback. Thanks for tuning in, faithful. Please hit that like and subscribe. Yes, please. A like helps us out so much. That can, if you want to help the channel out and grow, that's the best way. Now, I want to talk about that back end of that schedule, right? One of those games is very concerning before the bye, right? Wouldn't that be the Cleveland game?
Before the bye. Yeah, the Cleveland game is concerning because who's the defensive coordinator for the Browns?
Jim Schwartz. Yep.
How's Kyle Shanahan do against Jim Schwartz defense? Bad. Yes. So that is absolutely bad. It's before the bye week. They're probably going to come off of schmotzing the Panthers on Monday Night Football the week before. I don't like that Cleveland game where it is.
I don't either. And I don't like it because of Jim Schwartz and his time, right? Against him. Jim Schwartz and Robert Flores, you automatically get concerned when it comes to the 49ers in terms of like chess matches. Then you throw in where the game is, when the game is, and that Cleveland stadium is right there on the lake, which is what makes that so cold, which makes the snow so bad. And if there's any instance of it being cold and rainy or snowy, then you already have to be concerned. On top of the fact that even if this was on a neutral field, you don't really feel great about a Kyle Shanahan offense against Jim Schwartz. That's the game that I kind of have locked in as almost an L this season. And I'm very optimistic. I have a lot of W's on this schedule, by the way, for the 49ers.
Yeah, I agree with you. And look, they're not going to go undefeated, right? I know everyone's like, well, which games are they losing? Well, they're not winning all of them. So you got to pick some for them to lose. That Cleveland game, absolutely. I think that Jacksonville game in week 4 could be a trap. If the Niners start off hot, especially if they beat Seattle. Let's say they beat Seattle and beat Arizona and they have 2 wins in the division. Then in week 5, they're playing the Rams. They might be like, oh, we got to focus on that. We're going to start 3-0 in the division after getting cooked in the NFC West last year. And they're going to completely overlook the Jags in week 4. I think those two, the Cleveland and the Jacksonville, are the 2 games that could be trap games.
What's funny is I looked at the first 4 weeks, and there's a path for the 49ers to be 4-0.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I know how the NFL works, and there's going to be a slip-up. And that Jacksonville game is the one that I'm looking at where I'm just like, that's the one that is probably going to be annoying. You're probably going to take care of business in Seattle. You're probably going to beat Arizona. I'm not worried about those games. The Jacksonville game, if you have 4 games, obviously in an ideal, perfect world, Narnia world, you're 4-0. But you've got to also put into account that slip-ups happen. And where it's one of those games is going to be a game where you're just like, there's no reason for the 49ers to lose this game, but it's just how the NFL works. That's the one that scares me the most as well, too. Travis Hunter, Trevor Lawrence, they've got a new coach. Like, here's the thing. When we look at strength of schedule, when we look at what teams were last year, you're automatically thinking that team is going to be the team that came from last year. No. Liam Cohen is now their play caller. Liam Cohen has made Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense look incredible, right? What are the odds that other teams are improved? I know the whole part at the end, too. The 49ers, I believe the last 7 or 8 games are not against playoff teams from 2024. That's cool and all, but those teams aren't coming over to this year, right? We all think the Chicago Bears are vastly improved, despite the fact that Caleb Williams unfortunately decided to tell everybody that he didn't want to, be there, which is just, that's a whole other story. But we think the Bears are going to be far more improved, right? So I don't want people to get wrapped up in the whole strength of schedule thing, because those teams from 2024 are not going to show up in 2025. And teams have improved just the same way the 49ers have.
Yeah, then your point about the Jags is especially true. Liam Cohen is there. He just helped Baker Mayfield throw for 40-plus touchdowns last year. Only 13 guys in the history of the NFL have ever thrown for 40-plus touchdowns in a season. And Baker Mayfield is one of them. And Liam Cohen was his offensive coordinator last year. And look, I've never been a big Trevor Lawrence guy, but if anybody can squeeze juice from that orange, it's probably Liam Cohen. So yeah, I completely think that Jacksonville game could be one that they lose. I would not be shocked at all. I wouldn't be that upset either, because it's an AFC game. Like, give me wins against Seattle, New Orleans, Arizona, obviously the Rams. Like, I want them to win the NFC game. So if they're going to drop one, if it's the Jags game, I can live with it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is I'm kind of looking at it from where are the slip-ups? Who are the teams that can exploit things? Styles make fights in the NFL. Just because you don't have a better roster than another team doesn't mean that means that you're going to beat them. If they do something particularly well that you struggle with, that can be enough to turn the tide. And that's why when I say, hey, I feel like this might be a loss, it's not that I'm saying this team is better than the 49ers. In fact, I think, and you can push back on this if you want, Rob, just because you beat a team doesn't make you better than them. Let me give you an example. If the worst team in football wins one game and they beat a really good team, does that mean that they're better than them? It just meant that they played better that day. So it doesn't mean that they are a better team. They just have to be better for those 60 minutes on that Sunday, Monday, Thursday, whenever it is that they play.
And the other part of this, too, that I think is going to be interesting to watch this year is the 49ers do not have a team this year where they're just going to billy club everybody and be up by multiple scores in the fourth quarter and be able to run the ball and ride it out. They're going to be in a lot of one-score games because the NFL is designed to be a one-score lead. So the question is going to be, how do they manage the game in those one-score games? How do the players manage the game? Do they protect the ball? And some of those games, they're not going to execute properly. And those are the games that they're going to drop, because that's just the nature of the NFL. It's a one-play, one-score kind of league. And sometimes you don't come up on the right end of those coin flips.
There's a reason that only 2 teams have gone through the regular season undefeated. Only one of them finished the job. That's your example right there. The parity, this is what makes the game of football and the NFL king. Parity. Everybody's close. Everything is there. There is something, again, you don't have to have the better roster to make problems for the team. You just have to do something particularly well that the other team cannot handle or either struggles with.
And the undefeated team in the regular season that didn't get it done was the one with the greatest quarterback and the 3rd greatest wide receiver of all time on the roster.
The 3rd greatest wide receiver, because it's Jerry Rice and Terrell Owens, and Rob Stats-Guerrero and I will not stand for any other discussion when it comes to that. Jacob Gordon says it's Chicago, so I can't really blame Williams. His father said Chicago, the Bears, is where quarterbacks go to die.
He's right.
He is right, but you can't tell somebody that to put it in a book.
Look, maybe he wants to get out of there now still. I don't know, but he is right, okay? The Bears haven't had a good quarterback in our lifetime. I turned 40 in January, okay? Like, it is where quarterbacks go to die.
Yes, and 40 touchdowns it just hasn't happened. 4,000 yards, I'm sorry. 4,000 yards hasn't happened. And 4,000 yards Matt Schaub's thrown for 4,000 yards.
Did you
Like,
see, I think it was Annie Agar who tweeted
yeah,
Chicago generated a Pope before a
for a
4,000
4,000-yard passer. That's such a good tweet. It is a really good tweet. Shout out to everybody in here, 15 minutes in. Make sure you guys like this video. That'll help us out a ton. Got the big boss, Rob Stats Guerrera, in here from the Gold Standard Podcast Network, kicking it with me on his day off and everything as well, too. Appreciate that. Rob, let's do it, man. Let's do it game by game. Let's get it out of the way. I know you've done multiple shows, so you're ready and prepared with your answer. Seattle Seahawks, week 1.
Oh, I think that's a win.
New Orleans Saints in New Orleans.
That's a win. They have their quarterback situation is a tire fire.
I've got them 2-0 in these games as well, too. By the way, if you're looking for games to attend, my God, is there in New Orleans right now is your best chance. The tickets are going to be cheaper than they've ever been in the world because of how bad they are. And New Orleans is beautiful. You can literally walk to the stadium from Bourbon Street. So yeah, just a suggestion for anybody that's looking. I know Rob doesn't want to go to New York because it's going to be too cold. We'll talk about that in a little bit, though. Like, we'll get to that. Yeah. Arizona home opener.
They have won a lot of their home openers recently. The division games are going to be tough, but I'm going to assume the Niners are going to be healthy enough, hopefully, God willing, at that point, that they'll win that game.
I've got a W for that one as well. Jaguars, I'm nervous about it, but I'll take a W. What do you think?
I'm nervous about it. I'll give them a loss in that one. If they're riding high at 3-0, new system, Liam Cohen, there's not going to be a ton of data where they sort of get a beat on what he wants to do with them and how he's using them. I'll say they lose against the Jags.
Okay. Week 5, Thursday Night Football, one of the 5 primetime games for the San Francisco 49ers. I have this one as a loss, Rob.
It's a home game because they're playing in Los Angeles.
That joke never gets old.
I'm going to say they'll split with the Rams. So I'll say
that's what I think too.
Lose to the Rams.
That's what I think too. They'll split. They'll win the one at home. They'll lose the one on the road. That's the best way to look at it. The Rams are the real threat in the NFC West. Neither of the other teams are. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they'll have 10 days in between these games before they make the trip over to Tampa Bay. I've got them as a W.
Yeah, they beat Tampa Bay last year. I know they had some injuries, but guess what? So did the 49ers last year in that game. And the trash-ass team still beat Tampa Bay. It won't be easy, but I do think the Niners will get the win against the Bucs, especially with an extra, 4 days to prepare.
Second primetime game, the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday Night Football at the crib. Michael Penix, not Kirk Cousins for now, will be starting. What do you think? I got this as a W, actually.
Well, first, I got this as the Kirk Cousins trade rumors. As soon as Kyle shakes his hand before the game, we'll start up the Kirk Cousins trade rumor machine again. This will be a nice test of the DJ. Like, is this run defense really improved? We'll find out because Bijan Robinson's going to be there. And they've got a bunch of games, actually. Kyron Williams in that Rams game, Bucky Irving, and they're challenged from a running game perspective.
And the same thing, the Saints too. I guess the only way that you could look at it is just that you're not scared of the passer, but Alvin Kamara is still that guy. Like, he's still one of those guys. But again, I think you can focus in on the run because of who's at quarterback. That might slow things down.
I agree. Actually, you know what? If you look at it, like James Conner usually cooks.
James Conner's a stud. He's a stud.
ETN for Jacksonville. Like, the running backs on this schedule, no wonder they drafted all those damn run stuffers.
Yeah, well, Bashal Tudum is probably going to take his spot. Like, if we're going just based off of the language that they're using, like, he's really good too in Jacksonville. But all right,
they'll win against the Falcons.
Yeah, I think so too. One of the bigger revenge games, DeMeco Ryans against the San Francisco 49ers in Houston. CJ Stroud has added Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, two Iowa State wide receivers who I was very big on during the draft class. Two Nico Collins, Joe Mixon. Their offensive line's a little bit of a sketch. Bobby Slowick, what do you got for me? What do you think about this one?
I think this is a loss. I think DeMeco's going to get the win. He's at home. Their defense was excellent last year, especially against the pass. DeMeco knows what Kyle is cooking. Let's be honest. And I think that Houston's going to get the win.
Jimmy Ward, Azeez Al-Shire.
Right.
The storylines just write themselves when it comes to this one. But week 8, I still think the 49ers win this game, but I'm very nervous about that. I am a little nervous. Again, road game, I do think the the Houston offense is so good right now, but their offensive line, they got rid of Laramie Tunsil, which I don't know how that makes your offensive line better. But thanks for sending him to Washington because, Washington just loaded up again, and all of a sudden they're back, like right back in it. They went to the NFC Championship game and then somehow got better. And that's all on the back of, having a cheap rookie quarterback. But I still think the 49ers win this one. This one's going to be really spooky, though. Like, it's going to be spooky throughout the entire game, I think.
Early body clock. Early body clock game.
So that's the other thing, too, is there's no middle ground for Houston, right? Like, when they go all the way to New York, they go to Columbus, Ohio to, stay there and kind of get themselves acclimated. There's no middle ground to Houston. So if you're worried about travel, this might be the one because you have to go straight to Houston. And then you'll be there in Texas. The San Francisco 49ers will be playing in my backyard, 15 minutes from my house, against the New York Giants at MetLife Stadium on November 2nd. My birthday is 3 days after, and it comes on the heels of Halloween weekend. This entire week is going to be lit, Rob. I don't know if I'm going to be able to podcast on Tuesday. It's just going to be really bad.
I didn't realize you lived that close to the stadium.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very close. I can literally take the train, and it puts me right in front of the stadium. I won't even have to drive, worry about any of those things. And luckily, in November, it's not cold anymore because of global warming. Like, it's now 55, 60 degrees. Last year on Halloween, it was 78 degrees, which is only a few days before that. If that's the weather we get at MetLife, man, I mean, I've already got the Niners winning this game, but the Niners roll in this one.
Should we get a press pass for you for that game?
If you could, let's do it. I could talk to, I know Big Blue View, Ed, but yeah, I'd love to do that. That would be amazing because I can literally be there in a moment's notice and that close. But yeah, we should try. Right. But do the 49ers beat the Giants and Russell Wilson? It is time to get Russell Wilson back a little bit more, right? Like, I know that we'll never get back what he's taken from us, but we still have to take what we can from him while he's still in this league, right?
Will he be starting that game? That's the question. Oh. It's Russ, it's Jackson Dart, it's Jameis. That's week 9. So that's enough time for at least one quarterback change, if not 2.
You're forgetting Tommy DeVito.
Oh, Tommy Cutlets.
The Cutlets. Listen, man, you got to play to your fan base, and that's exactly what the Giants do. I do want to say this, and I didn't know this. Did you know that Jackson Dart's brother, his name is Diesel Dart? Holy shit, Rob. Holy shit.
Diesel Dart. Oh, that's phenomenal.
That's insane. I mean, look, I like Jackson with the X, but my God, their parents are 2 for 2 with names. Like, they just crush both of those.
I don't care if it's Jackson Dart, Diesel Dart.
Oh, go for it.
Cool Diesel. The Niners are kicking the shit out of the Giants.
Niners at 5, right? Yeah, let's go. I love it. Week 10, we already kind of spoiled this one. We think that the 49ers lose in SoFi, but they win in their normal stadium, right? So week 10, we've got a W for them, right?
Yes, agreed.
Okay, at Arizona, I'm a little nervous about this game. I've got them with an L in this game.
The Cardinals roster, I still don't think is that good. It's improving, but I think they are very well coached. And if they're well coached, they got a chance. And Kyler kind of can cook the 49ers a little bit. I mean, I'll never forget the sight of him last year on that quarterback, the design run where he's got.
Thanks, Talano Hufanga.
25 yards before the end zone because he knows he's scoring because there is nobody in his path. I gave the Niners a win in week 3, so I'll give them a loss in week 11.
I've got them. This is just, again, if we're looking at games where like slip-ups can happen, division games are probably your best chance of those sort of slip-ups. I don't think much of the Cardinals roster. I like what they did in the draft, like ending up with, Will Johnson at corner. If that works out, my God, like that, but I'm glad that they took the risk. That's them, taking the risk. But if it works, dear God. But I do think that this is one of those games where, the 49ers turn the ball over, something wonky happens on special teams. Like, that's the stuff that we can't account for. That's what makes this exercise so fun. And we don't know the shape of both teams going into any of these games. If Nick Bosa misses a game that we're predicting a W for, we would probably change our minds when it gets to that week because we're just like, damn, Nick Bosa's not going to play. Like, that's not something to, sneeze at. But I do think this might be a slip up for that one. So is the NFL and ESPN more interested in revenge games than content creators and pundits? Because why would you put the Carolina Panthers and the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football?
I don't get it. I really don't. Like, is it just, Christian McCaffrey revenge? I guess, but like the Panthers are ass. I'm sorry. They are ass. Okay. They're not good. They're going to get schmotzed.
Yep.
It's going to be like when the Niners played them. What was the year that Bosa had the pick against them? Remember they put up 50.
Yeah, 2019. That was when what is it? It's Kyle, the quarterback. Kyle Allen was the quarterback. They had went 4-0, and Gerald McCoy was like, "We want all the smoke." Yeah, you sure did. My goodness, man. Jimmy Garoppolo. And that was one of the first film breakdowns I ever did. For the channel was that game. That was a Kyle Shanahan absolute masterclass where he just had Luke Kuechly in a blender. Like think about that. Luke Kuechly is one of the guys that watches more film than anybody. He had no idea where the football was going. The 49ers were just 2019 was such a special season. But yeah, I don't see why this would be the Monday night game. I'll tell you this. If I wasn't a 49ers fan and I had to watch this as a Monday night game, I'd be pissed.
Yeah,
I'd be pissed.
I wouldn't watch it, to be honest with you. It's bad.
Right.
By the way,
I'd be pissed.
Can we bring Tevin Coleman back for this game? In that game you were talking about, Christian McCaffrey had 14 carries for 117 yards and a touchdown. Tevin Coleman had 11 carries for 105 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Didn't he have 4 in the game? Like, wasn't it 3 and then he caught one?
Oh, yeah, you're right. He did catch one. He had 4 touchdowns.
4 tugs in that game. The only reason I know is because I'm a sick human being and I started him that week in fantasy football. Don't ask me why. I think I had no better options. And I was just like, well, never a doubt, baby. Always a genius when it comes to that. But yeah, this game just, and there's another one that's about to come up that's a nationally televised game. And when we get to it, I'll try to explain it as well too. But I don't understand the national appeal unless it's just like, hey, we got to get the 49ers in front of the national media as much as we can.
Well, I tell everybody the 49ers are a national brand. They're
yes.
2 teams, the Patriots, the Chiefs, the Steelers, the Cowboys, the Niners, and probably the Packers, I would say, are national brands, especially when you're the Niners and you won as much as they did in the 80s and 90s. That's how you become a national brand, and they still are. And so teams and networks put them on in prime time.
And, I don't agree with Colin Cowherd a lot. But my God, did he cook about the Dallas Cowboys? The Dallas Cowboys are going to get the first game of the season against the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's fine. NFC East. Stop giving me them on Thanksgiving. I don't care who they play. Like, let Dak Prescott go hang out with his family, for God's sakes. Because, usually, whenever the Cowboys are on, that's my Thanksgiving nap time. And the analogy that he used was perfect. The Dallas Cowboys are like that U2 album that was on your iPhone. You can't get rid of it. It's there. You never wanted it, but they're always going to be there. And I was just like, man, I don't agree with you on a lot, but this man souffled a 6-course meal about why the Dallas Cowboys stink and we should never watch them on primetime.
Dude, that U2 album thing, infuriates me to no
to this day.
How that is allowed is, we got to move on because I'm going to go on a rant.
What makes you more mad, that U2 album or AirPods?
The AirPods are up there, man. I hate AirPods with a freak. Would it kill you to just plug in a goddamn pair of headphones? You think you look so cool with these shitty little white plastic hunks of crap in your ears? Oh, so cool. I can't have a rope connecting my headphones. God.
Oh my God, I knew that was the response that I was going to get to. I completely set that one up. Hey, shout out to everybody that's in here almost 30 minutes. Make sure you guys like this video. I'm having a blast. Shout out to the big boss, Rob Stats Guerrero, for hanging out with me from Gold Standard Podcast Network. My goodness, let's move on. After the awful Panthers game, which we have as a W, it's that game that we were talking about in Cleveland against Jim Schwartz. And if that game even has a hint of bad weather, that just automatically makes that game even harder to navigate. But I'm going to give them an L here against the Cleveland Browns. Adding Mason Graham You already have Myles Garrett. You still have Denzel Ward. You still have that defensive coordinator there. I don't care who the quarterback is. That game's going to be muddy, yucky, and annoying. And I just think the Browns are going to find a way to win that one.
It'd be really interesting. What will the 49ers record be going into that game? If it's a good record and they lose, it'll be, hey, you know what? Jim Schwartz has Kyle Shanahan's number, whatever. But if the Niners are like at 500 and they lose that game to go under 500, or just that, maybe they lose 2 or 3 in a row, whatever the case may be, people are going to pile on Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers if they lose that game.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? The good news is they're not going to run into Cleveland in the Super Bowl. So let's just get this out of the way now, right? Like, they're not making the Super Bowl, right? You might run into Robert Flores in the playoffs. So I do want to be cognizant of that and make sure that I'm aware of that. But before going into this bye week, I want to do my calculations. So I've got them 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 4-1, 5-1, 6-1, 7-1, 8-1, 9-1, 9-2, 10-2, 10-3. I've got them 10-3 going into the bye. What do you got them at, Rob?
I think I have them at 8-5.
8-5. Okay, so we're 2 games off. Okay, now the Tennessee Titans, who had the number 1 pick overall, right? Cam Ward is going to be their starter. They're completely upstart. The 49ers have to win this game. This has to be a W.
Has to. Like, I'm sorry. Tennessee's not in your league. Cam Ward might be awesome. I don't care. The rest of that roster isn't. You have to beat Tennessee, especially coming off of a bye.
Yes, we have to win that game. And then the other primetime game that kind of makes no sense is December 22nd in Indianapolis. I want to say this. I have a deep love for the city of Indianapolis, especially for the way I hope the NFL Combine never leaves Indianapolis. Don't send it to Dallas. Don't send it to Los Angeles. Don't send it anywhere else. The way that the Combine is set up is the place that you do the media, you can walk right across the street to the stadium and you can watch all the workouts. And if you're staying in the downtown area, you can literally walk to do all of those things. It's the perfect setup. I have a lot of love for Indianapolis. However, Rob, fucking Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson could be starting this game. My God, I'm like, why are you suggesting NFL fans to this on Monday Night Football?
And I get that if you look at the Niners schedule, there's not a ton. Like, if you're not going to put the Rams games in prime time, you got Bucks and Texans are probably really the only 2 good primetime options. I just don't know how you look and you're like, Panthers and Colts. Those are the 2 that we're picking here. It's a terrible game. The Colts roster is not good. Chris Ballard, I don't know who that guy has pictures of, but how he still has a freaking job. He's still trying to make it seem like the Andrew Luck retirement is the reason they don't have a quarterback. Like,
reputation.
I don't get it. They're going to kick the tar out of the Colts. I don't care if it's in Indianapolis or San Francisco or the moon.
Right. Daniel Jones or Anthony. And the only way that this makes sense is if Anthony Richardson beats Daniel Jones outright for this job and starts to show some of that upside that he has as a quarterback. I'm not betting on that. I think I've watched enough at this point where I'm just like, I don't think this young man has it. But in terms of just making the game entertaining, it would be much better if Anthony Richardson was actually good, because we know what the height of Daniel Jones is, and it's not that good. So, I mean, it's either going to be Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson. And my God, I'm sorry to NFL fans, and don't blame us. We didn't want to do this. Like, you guys, like, they gave us this game. I don't want to watch this either if I wasn't a Niners fan or a Niners content creator and covering the team.
And I see this comment from Gordra, and I apologize if
Gojira.
Gojira says the Niners could easily get some of these primetime games flexed. That's a prime flex candidate. It's week 16. There's going to be games on the schedule that mean a hell of a lot more than Niners Colts. I would be stunned if that game is actually in prime time at that point in the year.
Rob, but isn't it only Sunday night football games that can be flexed? I don't know if it's Monday night football because that's an extra day.
I think they can, but I think they have to do it very early. Let me see if I can look this up really quick.
I don't think Monday night football can be moved. Sunday night football can be moved because it's still on the slate.
So for Monday Night Football at the NFL's discretion in weeks 12 to 17. So they can do it. Will they? I don't know. But I just wanted to look. What week is that in the year?
If that's the last 3 weeks, then it's week 15.
Week
No, wait, week 16.
Okay. Week 16. I'm just looking at the week 16 schedule. Let's see. You've got Chargers and Cowboys. That's potentially an interesting matchup. You have, oh man, there are not a lot of good games.
Mm-mm.
No,
But you never know what could be playoff implicated.
True. But yeah, man, that's maybe Steelers Lions potentially.
That division is going to be a bloodbath, the one that the Lions are in.
Yeah, the NFC North is going to be brutal. But I understand, like, it sort of makes sense because you've got the Thursday game and then you've got 2 Saturday games. Packers, Bears, and Eagles, Commanders are on Saturday. So you have even fewer games to choose from for the rest of it. So yeah, that's a rough week just in general for the NFL schedule.
Yeah, it's just going to be tough to figure out, again, and we don't know, right? Like we don't know who's going to be doing what, and it'll always be some team that we never had any idea of doing that. But I just don't think I can remember a Monday Night Football being flexed out. I think the last year, that was just a Sunday night game. There is no Monday Night Football game on the last week of the season. I think they just made Vikings Lions the Sunday Night Football game, which was, obviously the right move, but neither here nor there. After Indianapolis, the Bears. Now the Bears are interesting. The Bears were not good last year. The 49ers beat the dog shit out of them. And that's under Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron, but Ben Johnson's there. And that offensive line is far more improved. And they drafted Colston Loveland and Luther Burden, and they already had DJ Moore. This Bears team is for sure, and it's not even really me jumping out on a limb, is going to be better. Will they be a playoff team? Because Lions, Vikings, Bears, Packers, my God, is that like not the most loaded division in all of football at this point? Because all of them have a claim to being at the top. But this one scares me. I think I have this one as an L.
Yeah, this one, if the Bears are what we think they are going to be, and we think that Ben Johnson is going to be able to get a lot out of Caleb Williams because he got a lot out of Jared Goff, let's be honest. And Caleb is way more talented than Jared Goff. It's not even close. So that will be interesting. Now, the week before, they play Green Bay at home. Chicago's at home. They play Green Bay. That's going to be a tough game. And actually, I'm just looking at the Bears' schedule. They play Green Bay in Green Bay on week 14. Then they play the Browns, and then they play the Packers again in week 16. Those are going to be massive, massive games for the Bears. But I do agree with you. I think this could be a little bit of a trap game for the Niners as well. They'll have come out of the bye. They'll have kicked the tar out of the Titans. They'll have kicked the tar out of the Colts. And they'll have the Seahawks coming up at the end of the season. I could see them looking past Chicago a little bit.
Ariel, mod and channel member, appreciate you. In 2023, the Chiefs Pats was flexed for Eagles Seahawks on Monday Night Football. So that is interesting. There is precedent for that. And I'm glad that you brought that up. Didn't realize that, but that's why the people that work on my channel and the people that watch, you guys are the smartest in the room. I have an unpopular opinion about week 18. Rob, that game's not going to matter. We're going to watch Mac Jones against Jalen Milroe.
Okay. You think that the Niners are going to have a playoff spot locked up? Do you think it's going to be the division title? What do you think's happening?
If I'm going by my own predictions, I've got them losing to the Bears, the Browns, and the Rams. That's 3 losses. So they'll be 12-3 going into that game, or because it's 17 games now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they'll be 13-3. They'll have their spot locked up. They're not going to have to play anybody. Now, does that mean that they have a number 1 seed? I don't know. Looking at the Eagles schedule, the Eagles have every single week that the Eagles play, it seems like this year is going to be the best game of the week, right? Like they're going to have the best, sort of matchup. 13-3 going into that one. I just think they'll have it locked up, whether it's they can't move up or they've already got something locked up. I don't think that game's going to mean anything. And we'll watch McCorkle against Jalen Milroe.
Hey, you know what? I'd be totally fine with that as long as it means it doesn't mean anything because the playoff spot is secured. I know what it looks like. I remember watching Josh Dobbs last year to end the season against the Cardinals. No thanks, okay? No thank you. So it better be meaningless because they're in the playoffs.
Well, that's because the 49ers were already a six win team at that point. Now, if we go back to the year before, week 18 didn't mean anything because of they taking care of business at Washington, and then we got Sam Darnold against Carson Wentz, and I didn't even watch a minute of that game because who cares? Like the idea was like moving on to that one. But I just think if we're going off of the way that I'm feeling, if we're going off of the good vibes and all the positivity that I always exude, because I'm never negative about this team in any way. Clearly that's sarcasm. But them having 3 losses going into this game, I think they've got their spot secured if everything breaks the way that I believe it will.
Not for nothing, but the last time the 49ers played the Seahawks in the final week of the season, I will never forget that. That may be the most satisfying regular season win of my lifetime. When they go into Seattle in 2019, exhausted as hell because they had the earliest possible bye you can get in week 4, and they need to win to become the number 1 seed in the NFC, and they have a lead, and all of a sudden Russ is doing his Russell Wilson thing, and they are going down the field, passes, runs, and they get to the 1-inch line, and Dre Greenlaw says, "No mas!" and stops them on the 1-inch line, and the Niners get the number 1 seed. And I will believe until the day I die, Jay, that if they don't win that game, they don't get to the Super Bowl that year because they don't get the bye, and they were cooked if they didn't get the bye.
They needed to win that game to tell everybody, like, this is enough. And you know what? The strongest 49ers fan watched that last drive come to fruition, and you almost were just like, all right, man, like, like you're almost ready for this to happen. And I remember, this is how I know that's one of those games. And that 2019 season, my God, I don't like thinking about it because it makes me so sad of what it could have been because of how good it was. And even the playoff run, easy game after easy game, and then getting so close right there in the Super Bowl. Like, that one holds a big like hole in my heart. You have the New Orleans game during that season, and where can you outbeat them in the dome? And they did. And then, the George Kittle run and all that stuff as well, too. I'll put this up on the screen, actually. Just that game, I know exactly where I was. And I was watching it in one of the lone Niners bars in Jersey. It's a place called Nuno's in Linden, New Jersey. And I don't think I even uttered a noise during that entire game. No, seriously, like I just sat there because I was just like, I don't care how high we get up. I'm going to put it up on the screen. I don't care how high we get up. I don't care how much. It's still Seattle. It's still Seattle, and it's still Russell Wilson. It's still Pete Carroll. It's still like we have to show that we can beat them before I can even get confident. Now, fuck the Seahawks. They can't beat us and they can't see us. Who cares? But that's not the feeling of that game. I know exactly where I was. And I remember that stop. And when they clarified it on the field and they said the game was over, I didn't even shake a fist. I didn't jump. I just exhaled. And I remember getting in the car and just sitting in the back seat and just laying down with my hand over my head. Like I had survived something that was traumatic. And I think that's just, the feeling of that team, man. And it's just the feeling of getting over that hump against them. Now, once we did, that's it. It's a wrap. Now we own them. They suck. But it wasn't like that in that game.
There was a part of me that wouldn't and couldn't believe that the 49ers were good unless they could beat that
the Seahawks
in that stadium.
Right.
Even when the Niners were wrecking people under Jim Harbaugh, the Seahawks kicked the shit out of the 49ers.
Yep.
They always did. Even when the Niners had some of their best teams I've ever seen. So there was a part of me that was like, if we can't do this, I can't get on board. I can't believe with all my heart that they might be this good. And when they won that game, I was like, it's a new era.
Yep.
Like, it is a new day for this 49ers group. And holy crap, were we right.
Yeah, that was it. And because then I said, well, we got the Minnesota Vikings. Well, fuck them. We're gonna beat the piss out of them. I'm not worried about that. And then, Green Bay, I don't care. We're gonna beat your ass too. And that's exactly what they did, right? Like, it felt like that was the last final hurdle for them to clear, to let everybody know, like, if you're not gonna stop us in the NFC, Seattle, then nobody is. None of you guys are gonna be able to stop this train. And I'm glad that we brought up 2019 because it's not like I don't ever think about this at random times. And, well up because I went to Miami to go watch the Super Bowl and all that stuff, and yeah, I'll never forget after the interception by Tarvarius Moore, I got a call from Averly's mom at home because she was with Averly, and she said, "Oh my God, you're gonna do it," and I said, "I wish I was there so I could hug you and Averly because I'm by myself right now." And then sure enough, you just watch it all erode. Like that one will never leave my, like, if I had to rank the 3 Super Bowl losses, and I don't want to do this or whatever, but to make people sad, that's got to be up there because it never would have lined up any better. And then obviously, you have the one that just happened in Las Vegas. I'll let the chat decide which is the hardest to watch. But my God, man, it just felt like after that Tarvarius Moore interception, this is it. We're done. Like we're gonna take this one to the crib. And then the legend of Jimmy Garoppolo only grows, and you would have never gotten rid of him, Rob Stats Guerrero.
The people don't look at it this way because the Niners had the lead and they blew it and they should have won that game. But it is absurd that the 49ers got to the Super Bowl in 2019. In 2017 and 2018, their roster was comically bad. Comically bad. Their best wide receiver, I can't even remember his name. He joined the team like in the middle of training camp in 2017 or 2018. Channing Crowder was their best wide receiver.
Channing Crowder. No, you sure Channing Crowder? Channing Crowder was the linebacker. He's not the guy on the pivot.
I'm sorry. Who am I thinking of? I can't remember.
Jeremy Curley?
Maybe it was. I can't remember the wide receiver. I'm sorry. But my point is, like, they were so bereft of talent. And then to get to the Super Bowl in 2019, they were so ahead of schedule. You had George Kittle in like year 3, right? You had Fred Warner in like year 2. You had rookie Nick Bosa, rookie Deebo Samuel. They had no wide receivers that knew what the hell they were doing to the point where they had
Goodwin
trade 2 draft picks, a second and a third, to get Emmanuel Sanders because none of the wide receivers knew what the hell they were doing. Like, that team was so far ahead of schedule. And the fact that they got to the Super Bowl, number one, by throwing 8 passes in the NFC Championship game and only completing 6 of them.
Disrespectful.
It is a miracle that team got to the Super Bowl, but they should have won that game up 10 with 5 minutes to go in the fourth.
I think it was Marquise Goodwin that you're thinking of. I see Axel and Raymond bringing that up, and that's the other thing is, like, that season was, hey, we're excited. Hey, we just got Nick Bosa. We feel good, but you would have never been able to see, that coming, right? And then they started out and they won 8 straight, and they lost that first game to Seattle because kickers suck. And then, but they largely weren't tested all that season. They passed every single test, man. That New Orleans game is still one of the best games I've ever watched in my life, just purely from a football standpoint. And then, you bring in that Seattle game to like close the season out, and it just, that feeling of, holy shit, there's a new era, and we're not just going to be good this year, we're going to be good every single year after. And they stuck to the plan with John Lynch and Kyle, and and then obviously we thought we had our guy. We're like, Jimmy's a winner. Think about like the Jimmy is a winner thing, right? Let's do that, right? Let's do that. The Jimmy's a winner thing. How far does the Jimmy is a winner thing go? If they finish that Super Bowl, he literally would still be the quarterback to this day, right? You wouldn't be able to get rid of him.
1,000%. He's still the quarterback. And I mean, it's a whole new, like, the whole thing is different. That changes everything about this 49ers roster. There's no Trey Lance trade if that happens, right? So then there's 3 extra draft picks that they have. I mean, yeah, if he wins, forget it. And he's not going to get criticized the same way either.
No. And we just say, hey, that's the winner that we, again, looks like a Disney prince, dresses beautiful, like it just looked like literally we were like, oh my God, we have our guy. All right. I want to stick around for maybe 10 more minutes. Thank you guys again for joining. Please just drop a like on this video. Appreciate it. Got Rob Stats Guerrero in here. We're having a good time. But I do want to talk about something that's a little bit more serious. Post-draft free agent targets. I do think that I have 3 that I feel like the 49ers. By the way, hold on. Before we get into that, is DJ Humphries a 49er, or what the hell is going on here, dude?
This is the craziest part. this wasn't, a 49ers beat writer saying, hey, they signed DJ Humphries, because we know they don't do that.
He announced it.
Right. His representation tweeted out. Now, they did say that they had agreed to terms, not that a contract was signed. But if you agree to terms, you would think you would sign the contract. Was it a physical? Did they have him in for a physical? And did it not work out? Because I know he was, dealing with a knee injury that he was, rehabbing. I don't know what the deal is, but he is not on the team right now.
Here, you see this? This is my tinfoil hat. Ready? Okay. They didn't know what was going on with Trent Williams, and Trent Williams gave him the go ahead and said, listen, I'm fine and I'm going and I'm going to play. And they said, you know what? No deal. Peace out.
I would not be shocked at all if that was the case. 1,000%. I would not be shocked at all if that was the case, because we've seen this team lie. Remember when it was like, is Joe Staley going to play? Oh yeah, he's training. He's going to do good. And then the next day they trade for Trent Williams and Joe Staley announces his retirement. He told me and Levin on the show that he had told them ahead of time that he was retiring. He knew that in that Super Bowl in 2012, that was his last game. He knew walking off the field. So they were well informed ahead of time, but they lied. They did what they needed to do, and it worked out. Like, that's what they should have done. I was saying the same thing. Like, are we sure? You sure about that Trent Williams is coming back? And maybe they finally got the go ahead.
That's fine. And that's good news. I think it would be hard if you're Trent Williams, to turn down that sort of bag to play one more season when everybody already still has this high standard of you and you're so important to this team. But I certainly feel like there was the 49ers hedging their bet just in case. And then they spoke to Trent, and Trent said, I'm good. Like, I'm good to go, and I'm going to play this season. And, hey, we'll take Andre Dillard, and we'll take Petit Ferrer, the guy from Tennessee, and that's it. We're good with what we've got. Spencer Burford, you can be our backup left tackle, swing tackle, and we've got Colton, and we've got these two guys. One of them isn't going to make it, and he said, I'm in. Let's ride one more time. That's my tinfoil hat theory.
And Trent was there, right, on the first day of the organized workouts. I wonder if he kind of got back in the flow and was like, you know what? I like the vibe. I'm feeling good. The ankle seems to be doing better. All right, maybe we could do this.
And the bag's not bad either. It's not like he's being, underpaid or anything like that. Okay, cool. I'm glad we're on the same page here, right? Again, we have to sift through a little bit of this stuff, and I just feel like I think they got some new information, and they say, you know what, DJ Humphries, nah, we're good, man. Like, we're good here. All right. We're fine. But free agent targets, I've got 3 that I feel like are in the way possibly of, and you can say one way or another where you disagree or not, but I do think that there are 3 targets that are firmly, I believe, in the 49ers radar. 1, I would love Zadarius Smith as a situational pass rusher. I don't want him on the field on base downs. I don't want him there on first and second down when there's a chance that they can run the ball. I need you in there on third and long. You kick Mykel Williams inside and use him situationally as a pass rusher. If you look at his numbers last season, he had 9 games with the Cleveland Browns, 9 games with the Detroit Lions. He almost doubled his pressure rate when he went to Detroit. I wonder why that is. 1, a better team, playoff driven, with a better defensive coordinator and something to play for, and all of a sudden you're kicking up because he was replacing Aiden Hutchinson. Zadarius Smith can be had for nothing, and I don't want to see him on base downs. I don't want to see him rushing the passer, and Cleveland didn't use him that way. Detroit didn't use him that way. If you're looking for somebody on third and long that can finish as a veteran, Zadarius Smith is your perfect, cheap veteran answer.
You can never have too many good defensive
Did he?
line. He's with the Chiefs?
He signed?
Hold on.
I didn't see that. Hold on. I'll look it up. But go ahead. You go for it. No, he's a free agent. He's a free agent. He is a free agent.
Yeah, okay.
No, he's a free agent.
You can never have too many good defensive linemen ever. There's never been a team that's like, you know what? We don't need another guy that can rush the passer. Like, it's impossible. And the 49ers still need defensive linemen. I'm sorry, they do. Even if you think that Mykel Williams and CJ West and Alfred Collins are going to be good, you still need more. I'm sorry. Robert Beal ain't filling me with the warm and fuzzies. Kevin Givens, Yetur Gross-Matos, Drake Jackson's not even on the team anymore. Like, you need guys. And so why not get this guy, let him go in there, do what he does best. You've got Chris Kasarik, right? The defensive line coach that I am told can turn water into wine. So how about you give him wine to start with and see what he turns it into? They absolutely should do it because they absolutely have a need.
Absolutely. I think Zadarius Smith is the perfect complement, situational pass rusher. That's all. On third and long, if you're gonna stop the run and turn 3rd and 3 into 3rd and 6 and 3rd and 7, this is the guy that you need that is going to make that NASCAR package go, because he's not going to be on the field for base downs, and you're going to use him only in obvious passing downs and on 3rd and longs. I am all in on Zadarius Smith. Let's move to the secondary, and this is somebody that continues to be named. And I think we're all very happy with the idea of Renardo Green and Diamador Lenore. And Upton Stout is going to be in the slot. Axel, what happened to Jackson? He's no longer a 49er. He couldn't pass the physical.
They cut him.
Yeah.
He sucked.
Whoa, all right. But let's just say in this season, the 49ers go with Upton Stout as their K'Wan Williams, right? Like that's literally how they've been describing him. Diamador Lenore and Bernardo Green. But a name that keeps being thrown out there and is only 25 years old is Asante Samuel Jr. Now, let me highlight what Asante Samuel Jr. does poorly. He's a poor tackler, and he has trouble in being a press man guy. But in this offense that you believe is going to have a offense, in this defense that you believe is going to be better up front, cause a lot more pressure, right? What's the sense in going away from somebody who's going to be had for nothing that's 25 years old? Asante Samuel Jr. could be somebody who can, you know what, Upton Stout, you're here. We appreciate that. But we're going to kick Diamador Lenore inside. And now our secondary is that much stronger if Asante Samuel is the guy. Now, again, injuries, tackling, press coverage, these are your negatives. And there's a reason that he's still available, even though he's 25 years old. So don't make it seem like I'm just like, oh, this guy has no flaws. What are you doing? But I think, again, we're talking about risk reward here when it comes to that. Right, Rob?
And you don't have to decide like, oh, we're signing Asante Samuel Jr. and he's going to be our nickel, or no, just bring him in. Now, he did have neck surgery in April. He's got a checkup in July, and he says he's going to decide, after that checkup, which I'm wondering, maybe does that mean the doctor has to clear him to play football again? Who knows? But neck injuries are a little scary, but whatever. Let's say he can play. You sign him, bring him in. If Upton Stout beats him out and you have to put Asante Samuel on the bench, that's fine. That's
great depth.
Have to pay him money where that's going to be an issue. So bring him in and let these guys compete and let the best man win.
Yep. I think it's not a guarantee that you bring in Samuel and you just say, hey, he's a starter. I think there's nothing wrong with having depth. In the same breath that Rob just said about defensive line is never enough. There's never enough in secondary. And I think part of the reason the 49ers are in the spot that they're in is because they're not drafting for starters, because nothing ever goes wrong in the NFL, Rob. Nobody ever gets injured, and there's never a chance that a player can underperform. Everything, if you were good last year, you're going to be great the same way that you're this year. Come on. We have to start being proactive, not reactive if we're the 49ers organization.
What's the worst thing that happens? You sign Asante Samuel and then everybody else is so good that you just cut him when camp is over? Like, oh no. What's the problem?
Just awful process. Everybody was good last year. There's never going to be a chance of injury, and everyone's going to be just as good as they were last year, if not better.
Keep in mind, every year of the Shanahan regime except one, they have been among the top 10 most injured teams. The only year that they weren't was 2023. And what happened in that year? They kicked everybody's ass until they got to the Super Bowl.
And Raymond Martinez Jr. wants to get kicked out, says more kickers in round 3, please. Okay. We got a few more minutes here, Rob. Thank you for kicking it with me again, guys. If you're in here, we're having a blast. Make sure you like this video and, subscribe to Gold Standard Podcast Network. That's the big boss there. We got a lot going on over there as well, too, and a lot of great content. Rob's a big man, and he's the best. Rob, I got one that's going to piss people off.
All right.
And it's on defense. Because I'm done with offense. The 49ers can't afford Elijah Moore for a 1-year, $4 million deal, right? They can't afford that. It's going to completely derail all their plans.
No, but let's have Gabe Davis in for a visit.
That's all I got to say about that. They draft Nick Martin. They have D. Winters. C.J. Mosley from the New York Jets understands Robert Saleh is somebody who is not Devondre Campbell, who's actually very good at football still, is a little bit older. But I wonder if you bring in Mosley, does it impede you finding out what Winters and Martin is? And will the 49ers even bring him in if that is even a possibility of getting in the way of their development and finding out what they are?
Here's the thing. I don't think they like D Winters.
I don't think so either.
No, they've had multiple chances this offseason to say, hey, he's going to be the starter next to Fred. And every time they have said, nah, we'll see about that. Like, I think even if it was Saleh or somebody was asked and they said, like, he's got to get his body right to be able to withstand the rigors of a season. He's always hurt. He can't even finish a series without missing a few plays. They are not sold on D Winters. So I think that CJ Mosley makes sense. Now, he only played 4 games last year, so that's a little scary. He's 30 years old. So, there's some caveats, as there will be with anyone they sign, like you said. But again,
it'll literally be everyone that they're signing at this point after post-free. Like, that's the reason they're still free agents.
But what do you have to lose at this point?
Exactly.
There's everything to gain, nothing to lose. Bring him in, another veteran player on the team. Again, you mentioned the Saleh relationship. I think that's a real thing. And it's not like they don't need him. It's not like this roster is so full of players now that it wouldn't be necessary. It's necessary.
Let's take a look at last year. Dre Greenlaw is not going to be ready for week 1. So you agree to terms with Eric Kendricks. Mm-hmm. Eric Kendricks is a moron and says, I'd rather go play with the Dallas Cowboys, and leaves. And then you FaceTime Devondre Campbell and beg him to play football when he was getting ready to have a job as a Walmart greeter. And you don't want to do that again this year, right? CJ Mosley is somebody who, again, if he starts, great. That means he's in great shape and you feel much better about the linebacker spot. Sure. Does it impede what you're trying to learn about Nick Martin and what you think you know about D Winters? I think it's a good problem to have. If one of those guys beats out CJ Mosley, great. That means that they're up to the task. And if one of those guys beats out CJ Mosley and then gets hurt, CJ Mosley he's not Devondre Campbell. And he's never been Devondre Campbell. Devondre Campbell won 1 All-Pro. Not sure how that happened. I remember it was on the back of him being a pass coverage guy. Whatever. I think that was more just inflated by a few games. But CJ Mosley is far better at his time, even off of the injury, than Devondre Campbell was. And if he wins the job, then that means that he's all the way back and he's a far better option than those guys. And if he doesn't, then he's far better depth than they're going to have on this roster.
Completely agree. There is no downside. You have everything to gain and nothing to lose, and you're never going to fail making those kind of acquisitions.
Absolutely. And one more thing. You hate Gabe Davis, right?
Yes.
Okay. What is
not as a person, just as the guy's had 2 good playoff games, and the Jacksonville Jaguars just took a $20 million cap hit to get rid of him with 2 years left on his deal. Like, no, I'm sorry. I would much rather see Jacob Cowing get any targets that you were going to give to Gabe Davis. Like, what are we doing here?
Oh my God, this man's spitting. And the thing is with his game, it's the drops. Oh, I hear it. Is that me or you?
I don't hear an echo.
Oh, okay. It's just me. The drops. His route tree's limited. It's a little bit deeper down the field. Sure, he's good in run defense, but he just has yes. You see somebody. It's fine. It's the best time to end it. But I just think that he has too many holes in this game. No, thank you. Just give him the Jacob Cowing. That's it. We're good. That'll do it for this episode. Appreciate you guys. That's Rob Stats Guerrero. Rob, tell them where they can find you and everything.
Just search Gold Standard 49ers on YouTube or anywhere you get your audio podcast. Please give us a subscribe. We are closing in on 50,000 subs. Please help us get there, baby.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate all you guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow. And as always, go Niners. Welcome, everybody. Let's go Niners. My name is Jason Aponte.